All right, today we're going to talk about factoring by grouping. So let's get started with a couple examples. So first we're going to start with this example. We're going to do this problem right here. All right, so in order to factor this, what you have to do is always check for a GCF. Well, in this case, there's no GCF in all four terms. So we're good there. There's not the step there. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to divide your four terms into two pairs. So what I like to do is you can rearrange this as needed to whatever would factor out easiest. I would do these two, and then I would do those two. And that's exactly what I did right here. And I picked these two to be together because I know 6x and 3 in an x, so you can factor those pretty easily. And then I know 8 and 4 have a greatest common factor that's easy to factor out. So you can kind of look at those things as you go. All right, so now take the GCF out of both pairs and then rewrite it. So as I said before, if you were to look at 6x to the third and 3x squared, their GCF, and I'll do this in hot pink, is 3x plus 2. And if you're to look here, at 8x and 4, their GCF is 4. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take the two terms that were in the outside the parentheses, and you're going to write those inside the parentheses. So if you notice, this 3x squared is right here, and this plus 4 is right here, and then whatever was left over, which in this case happens to be, and I'll make it green, if you notice, these two are the same, and that you just combine to 1. And that's it. So you would write your final as 3x squared, which is what I have here, just minus the pretty colors. Now again, you can always check by multiplying this out to see if what you got is what you started with. All right, so now on this side, we're going to do the same thing, but first we're going to check for a GCF. 3, 6, we got that's divisible by 3 also, and x, and that's divisible by 3 and x. So we're taking our GCF of 3x, and you're dividing each term. 3x to the third divided by 3x gives you x squared. 6x squared divided by 3x gives you 2x. 21x divided by 3x gives you negative 7. And then negative 42x divided by 3x gives you negative 14. All right, so now we've taken our GCF here, and we're going to go ahead and you're going to start grouping it. And how you group it is up to you as far as you're moving the terms inside the parentheses. But what I did is I like these both have x's in common. So that guy's going to go outside my parentheses. And then what's left over is going here, x plus 2. And then for here, they both have a negative 7 in common. And then what's left over is x plus 2. So now let's go ahead and let's write that. We're going to leave the 3x on its own, doing its own thing. This guy goes right down. Now, like we said before, our first GCF is going to go here. And then that's going to go with this GCF, which is negative 7. And then for the next one, I'll do green. I've got this guy and this guy, which goes here. So when you rewrite it, if you were to multiply all this together, you would get 3 times x minus 7 times x plus 2. So it's a lot of steps, and you have to be very careful when you're factoring. So let's go ahead, let's do number 1. So first step, let's look to see GCF. Oh, let's say there. They don't have any in common, so they don't have a GCF, greatest common factor, so no. Now let's go ahead and let's start breaking this apart. Now you could do different ways, but I'm going to put these two together. The reason I'm putting these two together is because they both have x squares. So I'm going to rewrite this. And then rewrite this. Now that we broke these apart, now let's go ahead and start factoring. So this has x as a GCF, and I'm left with x squared minus 2. Oops, I forgot to write my 2 here, sorry. There you go. All right, and then now here, let's factor out a GCF. So I've got plus 4, and divide each term by 4, and I've got x minus 2. All right, so now that we factored those out, now we can go ahead and put x squared plus 4, and that's going to be one factor. And then your other factor is just whatever is the same here. And then that's it. So that's how you would factor that out. All right, so now let's look down here on number 3. And for number 3, let's see if we can find the GCF. 2ax, 2bx, 2ay, 2by. The only thing they have in common is 2. So I'm dividing each term by 2, and I'm going to factor that out. All right, now that I've gotten that, now I can start to break up. I'm going to leave the 2 outside. And, oops. There it goes. All right, so now for this section here, I'm going to factor out an x. So if I were to divide ax by x, I'm left with a. If I were to divide bx by x, I'm left with b. And then now let's go here and let's factor out a y. And then if you were to take ay divided by y, you have a. If you were to take by divided by y, you would have b. So, and then we're going to close it off with the brackets. All right, so we have our 2 left over. And then now let's start combining. See, I've got x plus y. And then if you notice, these two should be the same if you factored by grouping correctly, and you get a plus b. And then that is as factored as you can get. So it's a lot of steps, but make sure you check for greatest common factor first. Then you're going to divide your 4 terms into 2 pairs, and you can shuffle terms around to make it easier to factor if you need to. And then you're going to take the greatest common factor out of both pairs and then put everything left over in the parentheses. And then go ahead and rewrite at the very end. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to complete those 2 problems on your own. And that is how you factor by grouping.